and down, cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all. Time was past, hopping down, cause failing's not an option, and dad is not a noun, not at all.
Thank you for coming on to another episode of Dad is Not a Noun, changing the narrative for men of color and fatherhood, as well as changing the narrative on the things I care about. And today, I have a special guest with me. He is a veteran. He has an amazing story, and I wanted him to come on this show to tell me the ugly side of war. My special guest is Antoine. Antoine, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing swell today, and I say swell because I'm about to burst. I'm excited.
Thank you, brother. And my next question is, how's your heart? Because I'm a big advocate for mental health, especially in our community. So how's your heart at this moment?
My heart, it's sizzling. It's got that charge going, and it's warm. It's warm.
Okay. I like that. Your story is very interesting to me because, you were born in Philly. You was raised by your grandmother, your grandfather, and your uncle. So you've seen a lot of, things, in the community. Just talk about that life growing up.
Yeah, I mean, my grandma was primary. My grandpa, he was just there, and he was just that figure. And then my uncle was a little bit older than me. He was probably about 9, 10 years older than me. And, running the streets and stuff. Him and his friends would hang out, and it got so weird around the holidays. Just all sorts of fireworks, which were really just gunshots throughout the city. And unfortunately, we pretty much lived on the corner of one of the intersections, and our house got hit so many times. Every single house, Memorial Day, 4th of July, what's the other one? New Year's. Like, those were pretty much the times there was going to be a hole in our house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And do you feel like that kind of set you onto a trajectory into serving? And we'll get into that later. But just talk about like your relationship with your mother, as well as your dad, because I know I learned that your dad was locked up. But just talk about not having that relationship with your mother.
Yeah. Now, as far like I think I was about 10 or 11 or so, and maybe even 12. She had pretty much met a Coast Guard guy, took me, my brother, just me and my brother from Philly, and basically my grandma wasn't taking care of me anymore. So it was almost like I lost a mom because of my real mom. but then when it got to that, it was almost like she was trying to make us fit some image that didn't line up. It's like we know who we are, we know where we live, and so my brother doesn't have too much memory of that part. Like he was born when him and her and my stepdad got married,
Mm.
and she would basically try to get me to, and she would be secretive about it. She would try to get me to communicate with my dad from jail. And it just, I refused. I refused. At first, it was resistant, but after a while, it was like, well, how important am I? You know what I mean? It's like having a parent that might be suicidal. It's like, how shitty of a kid that was I for you to feel like you had to do that, stuff like that, And so it was kind of like I just kept to myself. I just stayed in my room. Anytime I got in trouble, I took the whooping, called it a day, just went back to the room. Um, Barely a C average student, man. And I mean, there was one time she told my stepdad to beat me,
Wow.
and he didn't seem to have a problem with it. But he was an E&J brandy drinker, and that's pretty violent liquor.
Yeah.
But and so my dad's basically just, I mean, the only memory I have of him in front of me is him yoking my mom up against the basement door at my grandma's house.
Wow.
And so she had to be, I mean, 21, 22, something like that. She had me at 15. But yeah, my dad, he to this day, there's nothing more important than doing wrong and going to jail.
Yeah.
Nothing I can do about it.
No, I
So,
hear you, man. But just have you tried to have any communication with your father, or just like you're like, nah, I'm good.
after I moved here to Florida from Vegas a couple months ago, I still have to find a letter that he had sent me, and that's where we're at with it. I just have to find the letter. Not, I mean, it's pretty much not going to cause me to do any contacting.
Right.
And I'm just too damn aware of what's happening to worry about something that small, I guess.
No, I
I
know.
mean, and I mean, not having a dad, not having an actual dad, not having really even a functional male role model or anything.
Right.
On one level, yeah, I probably would have learned a lot more about women and not get smacked, not get beat in the face by relationships all this time. But at the same time, we still have to find out who the man is that we are.
Right.
And because it's there whether anybody's around or not. We're born alone and we'll die alone. So it's
Right.
like, well, maybe it's there. Maybe I just need to find it,
Right.
and it's not easy, but most of the time the nurturing side, the motherly side ends up stuffing that that real male energy, basically,
Right.
that male energy.
Right.
So it's still there, and things go wrong all the time. People just have their dad and don't have the mom, so now they're all about action and productivity and not about
Right.
nurture and love.
Right.
And so it gets kooky, but I've seen it play out both ways with both real parents.
Right.
So that's when I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, mind my man,
Right.
mind my inner man, because I always obviously had some sort of nurture to me. I had to think about the times in war to act on things, so
Right.
I obviously had some nurture. So I was just like, I just took it. Yeah, it's yin and yang. The
Right.
yin is the nurture, and the yang is the freaking fire, the
Right.
action, the transformation.
Right.
And it seems to be doing all right so far. Like as far as interacting with people, interacting with kids that I don't even like, all sorts of things. Like it's all good. It's weird.
No, and I think our experience is different, and especially as we find ourselves. And I think you found your journey into the military. I know from the previous interview, like you signed up because you wanted to be a park ranger, and you got it confused about being a ranger. You know what I mean? So just talk about that.
Oh God, man. 17. I go first of all, let me rewind just a tad
Okay.
and just put it out there that I joined the army in August 1st, 2001. And first 30 days I was there was pretty much in processing and stuff. So like the end of August was my first basic training date. And just by the second week, 9/11, and the drill sergeant looked at us and said, "Well, privates, I guess you're all about to die. Bet you better pay attention." I tell you what, man, I may have not been ready to be a soldier, but I paid attention to every single thing they said. When it came to operating on base, like in on land on our land,
Hmm.
I didn't take any of it seriously. I didn't listen to anybody. I just completely didn't even regard conduct. But when it was time for training and stuff, I changed. There was
Right.
a totally different thing. Like for some reason, it was just like, yeah, I'm scared of sleeping outside in the woods because snakes and stuff. And but if I don't do this, somebody's going to die. You know
Right.
what I mean? If I don't do this, I might not be that person that's there to help somebody stay alive. Like it's just
Right.
my mind was kept going to life and death, black and white,
Right.
dark and light, all that, and it was doing that on its own.
Right.
So it was basically we had left February 14th. Um, we left Fort Bragg February 14th, 2002, and was in Kuwait until the end of March,
Right.
or excuse me, the beginning of March.
Right.
And when we found somewhere to stage, it was actually a landfill filled with like trash and
Right.
drug needles and all this stuff. It was weird, but that was the only place we weren't going to get found. So
Mm.
we went out and just hell broke loose off the Euphrates River. We're getting shot at by enemy and friendly fire, and my assistant gunner to my weapon system, he got shot in the face,
Right.
but it,
Wow.
it, it did a lot of ricocheting off the sides, went off his glasses, through his
Right.
ear. And so after that point, here goes the life and death thing again. It's like I get put in this decision to have to take multiple people's lives. And as I know, I mean, I just assume Middle Eastern guys just always have a kid somewhere.
Right.
And it kind of made it harder because there were a lot of kids over there just running around. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so took a couple times to shoot the weapon. It was a anti-tank missile, the Javelin, and fried the truck basically, destroyed the truck,
Right.
turned them into black mannequins, and then we had to go back around the next day to clear it, like to basically make sure everybody was dead and all the resources were
Right.
obtained. And I'm just looking at it, and I was thinking I did that, but I didn't feel good about it at all, not at
Right.
all. And I mean, it was almost like it was a celebration to the rest of my platoon because it was the first one to get fired in enemy territory.
Right. And
So
in
that
that
was
mind, and I know that had to be hard because in your mindset you think, all right, these are people that living everyday lives. Like I can understand you put yourself in the shoes as that man, that me as a kid living in Philly with my grandmother, like or with my grandfather or my uncle, and this could be us, and
easily,
I
easily.
can't imagine just that thought process of shutting that down just to accomplish the goal. Because again, at the end of the day, we're human beings, and but like one of the powerful things you said is that we live in a system where sometimes that darkness, if you don't understand that darkness, you let it take over you.
It's
That's
gonna
why
creep up. Yep.
right. And so we're so infatuated, like with the Jeffrey Dahmers and the Ted Bundys, is because we're so intrigued. Like, why would they just keep on killing?
Hmm.
And it has to be a reason why.
Yep. See them. Maybe it was impulse that was driving them to feel the need to release.
Right.
Because that is where the darkness shows when something's released. You
Right.
know what I mean? So it almost seemed like they still had it in a cage. It almost seems like the more in the cage and ignored it is, the more people end up looking like them. I'm not even joking, man. If we can't see that we can be brought to the human that'll, you know, choke out a baby. Something so horrible as that. If people can bring themselves to come to that, I can't see it as anything else but what they're ignoring, because they obviously resent the baby for taking their lives away and all this stuff that seems simple to everybody else that it happens to. But some people literally can't handle it because they were just under a different assumption of the world. And now it's like, now they're chasing all the bright lights and the good and love and all, they're chasing all this stuff because it was so damn scary. And that's when the disconnect happened right then. It's not like I'm going to not see myself do evil. It's not like that. It's they try to chase the light so hard that they disconnect from that dark, which that's generally where your strength is in the end. You know, it's, and I don't know, you know, I call it shadow work. Other people might call it different things, but I know there isn't any, like, I'm not calm. You know, I do overthink. You know, I do worry about people, no matter how cold my heart may seem to them in the moment. And it's like, well, I'm obviously getting two feelings here. So it's like, you know, there's feelings going on within that entity within us. So there's layers. There's so many layers, man, but you just can't be scared. That's what people can't, they cannot be scared. I mean, if they have to tell themselves, oh, I'm scared, that means I'm about to learn something or I'm about to get stronger. You know, and it's like, no, most of them run. Most of them run. You know.
And the one thing I find fascinating about your story is that how we look at people differently around the world. Like you're in Iraq, and you know, some of the soldiers, their mindset is that's the enemy. They're not a human being. They're the enemy. And my focus is to get home. It's me or that person. But talk about that scenario you had where I think it was in Iraq, and you could have chose to shoot the gentleman, but you chose not to. Talk about that story.
Yeah, that was Saddam's security guy, his head of security. That's what the intel was saying. That's what they told me, and all of us. You know, it was a whole operation. We drive in up this one street on the you know, on the larger trucks, the cargo trucks, and you know, we're all sneaky, being quiet. Nobody hears us. No dogs barking. One truck just takes off, collides into a transformer on the electric pole, and just sends sparks flying every freaking where. And you know that, and then it kicks off. So you know, I'm in the heavy weapons squad. So we basically had to pull security, like do security for, you know, the squads and the other squads. And you know, the squad leader from that squad I was attached to, he pretty much, you know, we were trying to kick open the door, and couldn't do it. It was like one of those metal sheet doors. And you know, I guess they were so fired up and the sparks threw everybody off that they didn't realize a wooden door behind them. So he shoots the wooden door. They go in. Well, he lets his team go in before he does, but then the dude opens the door. And so I'm like, I'm back. I'm like, hold on now. And he's all like, Coddle, detain him. So I'm just all like, all right, well, I gotta cuff him. I keep telling him to get on the ground, and he's giving me Arabic excuses. And I'm just like, I keep escalating, get on the ground. And then that's when the barrel came up and went to his face, and I said, get on the effing ground. There was another guy from my squad watching my back. He grabs the muzzle of my weapon and tries to get it away from him. And I didn't black out. I was just all like, oh, he broke a war rule. And I'm supposed to do something because of it. I was supposed to shoot him based off the Geneva Convention, because no enemy is supposed to touch another weapon of another enemy, not without death. And so when he did that, I kind of just like, I guess I did kind of go limp, go quiet, go relax. and I pretty much unhooked my rifle from my body armor, handed it to the other guy, and beat the living crap out of him because he put
Right.
me in the position to have to decide again.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was mad. I was
Right.
genuinely mad because that guy put me in the place to have to
Right.
execute on a rule.
Right. Wow.
Now this is me, don't like following rules. You know,
Right.
this was me. Like I hated rules, and those
Right.
rules are the stupidest rules, the war rules.
Right.
And so I hopped on top of him and just ground and pounded him until he couldn't function really. Like he was just like, ugh.
Right.
And you know, I didn't feel bad about it, but he really did. I that could have been number 8. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I really didn't want that. Like it was only, I would say, about 4 or 5 months difference between the time that the missile went off and that fight.
Right.
Yeah, it was only a few months. Like I didn't even have time to think about what I did,
Right.
basically. Oh
Right.
yeah, and
Because
then
you.
I got blown up by a grenade 2 months after the missile. After I shot the missile, so I had to,
Wow.
it was more stuff to have to think about.
And it's crazy. Like, how were you able just to? Because you have all this trauma going on back to back to back to back to back. So how were you able to just function? Because I know you still, you still have those. It's a part of you. It's not going to go away. So how do you
Yeah.
just function as a human being with all that?
Um. Y'all definitely questioning my own humanity is probably one way to keep me grounded in the thought. But overall, man, I don't know. I mean, I can't even say a procedure. I can't. All I can say is that empathy and self awareness is probably the only way anything can be done, whatever it is that's done. We
Right.
have to care about the situations and the pains and the suffering that other people go through or could be going through. And we have to be self aware enough to see ourselves inside of them almost, you know? If we can't see ourselves or even embrace their reality, then we're disconnected. And there's that disconnection from our and all that stuff. It's like our, our ego. I think the ego saves us from suicide sometimes.
Mm,
It's happened to me, but not only me, my best friend who's also a Scorpio, just like we were born on the same day. She's 3 years older. She seemed to tell a story of being too egotistical to pull the trigger.
right.
And the friend that I made in Vegas, whom that's the reason I moved to Florida, she kind of has it too. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like some of her planets are aligned under Leo. Like she doesn't want herself to feel hurt by herself.
Right.
There's an ego there. And so for me, I think that the ego actually saves us to some degree. And yeah, it may be in defense for some people's ego to go off in defense of their
Yeah.
insecurities,
Right.
but what's the difference between ego and confidence, really?
Yeah.
Most of the
No,
time, it's
no,
how
no,
somebody feels about you expressing it.
right. No, that's true. That's true. It's just how you channel it inside. And the one thing I found interesting is like how your perspective, because didn't you get a Purple Heart? Was it one or two Purple Hearts? One
No,
Purple
it
Heart,
was
right?
one.
One.
Yeah, it
Like
was
just
one.
talk about that because you have a different perspective on that.
Yeah. So it was a normal night, basically. We had staged at, it looked like a recreational center or maybe even a school. Had a pool in the back. It was disgusting, but they had a pool in the back. And, you know, once we staged it, and I guess the leadership, like the CEO, the commander, the first sergeant, once they, I guess, realized it was kind of safe there, they brought their headquarters platoon and a couple other platoons or a couple other squads from other platoons. And so it was like, this is our house. Like we're third platoon. Why are they here?
Right.
You know, this is our section. And
Right.
so it was like it got a little too much to be around my own people. So I would go
Right.
up to the roof. We always did security. We stayed on the roof,
Right.
and that was the way we made sure we were safe by us being on the roof. So I went on the roof. You know, there was a few other guys up there in their sleeping bags. It was nice and cool up there, so it wasn't 400 degrees like inside of it. So I got comfortable. and laid out. Um, didn't even manage to get to sleep yet. I turn I turn from my side, my right side, to over to my back, and just take a deep breath, and I hear metal hit the ground. Like it sounded like a quarter.
Right.
And I'm just all like thinking in my head saying, I wonder what that was while I'm trying to go to sleep. And then it's bam, white light, fucking uh my leg feels like it's hot, and the back of my arm, like um on this side, felt like it was just tightening like this.
Right.
And I honestly, I thought I was shot, and I was like, I don't know, somebody up here shot me. One of my own people shot me because of black. I was all over the place in my mind.
Right.
But when everybody hopped up, I realized it was like three people from my squad that also got hit. They were
wow.
sleeping next to me. I didn't leave them by themselves out and about. Like I made sure I was a team leader for that missile system too. So, and the radio guy was up there too, so he's important. And so I was sleeping next to them, and we all four of us got banged, and we all hop up, and really all I can remember is a lot of what the F and me yelling to get the fuck off the roof. And I mean that like
Right.
I was screaming because I don't know, I was hurting. I was like, why am I hurting? I don't care. They need to get off the roof. It came together. Yelled at them to
Right.
get off the roof. One
Right.
dude went over to the wrong side of the roof to get off. One side had a
Right.
ladder, the other didn't.
Right.
And I had to run and grab him because he was literally going to go face first over the edge
Right.
and just splat.
Wow.
And it was probably about a 2-story building. It just didn't have a second level, but it was still pretty high. And yeah, I mean, and this I do remember kind of processing, but I was sitting on the after everybody got down and they sent out a little squad for security. I'm sitting on the ping pong table getting patched up my leg, and blood starts squirting out of my back, like on my lap, off to the side. And I guess they thought it was arterial, but they actually, it was cauterized to the point where it made a little squirt gun.
Right.
But the scars are still there, and they don't seem to be going anywhere. and the brigade commander, like the full bird colonel, the bird, he came to the rec center, and he didn't even know I shot the weapon off. He was and he was black too, by the way. Colonel Donald Bray. And he was so tall, and I just looked up. I was fucking afraid of this guy. He was scary.
Right.
And he basically put his hand on my shoulder and told me, "Good job," about the missile. But I'm sitting here almost like split open because I got blown up by a grenade, and he didn't seem to want to acknowledge that part.
Yeah.
So it was like that was another lesson I had to learn about human ferocity, like the ferociousness of a human. We're freaking animals. But I just think we might be the most dangerous animal. That's all. Definitely not the most evolved.
No, definitely. No. But just talk about, you received the Purple Heart, and just take me to that, like, that mindset, because you have a different perspective of receiving that Purple Heart, because you were saying that you got it because not being on point on your situation. If you got injured. Yeah, the complacency. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, they made a big deal. Like they made us wear our uniform, the Class A one, the formal one. Right. They made us wear this one. We didn't even leave our area, the barracks area. They had us standing out in our physical training field. Right. And I mean, I'm talking about we got back in January. I don't know. I just remember it being hot. It may have been February, but it was it seemed pretty hot. I wasn't cold. And I mean, just everybody that had a hand over in Iraq, when they would get an award, I guess they would do these formations and just get together and recognize. Well, I don't know, man. Just the Purple Heart alone you get injured, in a hostile territory. And it's like, how does a person get injured? Because once we get injured, we start thinking about how the hell this can happen. And so
Right.
you start to reverse engineer it and realize, like, I fucked up. Plain and
Right.
simple, I did not pay attention, like the sergeant, like the trainers, like all of them were trying to say.
Right.
They didn't say get some sleep,
Right.
Ishmael. They didn't say, hey, make sure you're well rested so we can do the mission. They didn't say that, and I blew it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if it has George Washington on the front or not, or how cool pretty purple is, or the fact that it's even gold. Like, it has gold color. I don't think it's real though, but all that for a mess up. It's almost like that medal was supposed to validate the injured's ego and be like, well, I got this medal, so I now think it's cool to get injured in war. But on the in America side, if you go to the medical station with a problem, they'll call you a vajayjay. They'll call you a vagina.
Wow.
And so many words that I've never even heard after that moment.
Wow. Right.
So it's that's probably the one medal that, like, I get, carrying 40 guys to safety when there's all hell breaking loose. Like, I get that stuff,
Right.
but there shouldn't be any award for it. You know what I mean? Like, we were carrying each other back. Like, it was like, okay, I'll carry you while you rest. And I'll put you down, and hopefully you're strong enough to carry me, because I was like 200 some pounds.
Right.
And most of the time, airborne troopers are about 5'6" to 5'8", 140, 50 pounds. So they're generally smaller. And so no, not many people carried me to look like the hero, but best believe there were people out there that was carrying lighter loads.
Right.
They didn't take it seriously enough. They didn't acknowledge what had actually happened, even after it happened.
Right.
And every time they let their guard down, mine went up. And that's how I knew I can probably control how I feel when the time comes again. And, it was the Purple Heart. It's a diluted medal. It really is. It's really diluted. It's just all sorts of prestigiousness around it, probably because it has George Washington's head on it. I didn't think of that. I never thought of that one. But
no, but it's a good perspective to have on that, man. That's deep. And then man, this has been a dope conversation, man. I could talk to you forever. I want to do a part 2 on this.
Sure
but before I end this conversation, bro, talk about, because I know you started in a previous interview that you don't want someone to say thank you for my service. Talk about that. Or if I got that wrong.
Because when people see that somebody did anything like that, it's almost like I wouldn't be able to do that. So it's almost like service is different. Service is not how it is. It's almost humility. And humility didn't live in the Army. It doesn't live in the military at all. So me being a massage therapist after the fact, trying to check out the light side a little bit, it definitely told me that service was not based on that. Service was based on helping another and having the humility to do so through their eyes. I had to force myself to do that in war. I had to force myself to think about how the people in the cab felt when they realized that we were shooting at them for no reason.
Right.
I had to sit and realize, like, how was that 14-year-old kid's mindset when that adult told him to bring that grenade to our area?
Yeah.
Things like that. Like, if people want to get resentful right off the bat, they'll probably never have empathy or reasoning for that situation. We have to have some sort of compassion. And ultimately, I really don't even care if it's fake, as long as it's not for dark motives. That's all. Because we'll figure it out. We got to have empathy. But I can't wait for the part 2. This man, we could do this all day.
I can't wait, man. We could do this all day, man. Brother, Thank you for
Yeah.
coming on. I really appreciate you, man. How can people find you on social media, brother?
Everywhere. I'm talking about Akai Sasori. My real name is Antoine. It's my professional name. It's my worldly name. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, everything else on there, Spotify. I got a blog on Blogspot. All that is just type in Akai Sasori in Google, and everything should pop up. I'm pretty in there. That's my name. That's my alias
That's right. And those links will be in the description. Brother,
for
thank you for
sure.
coming on. We're definitely doing a part 2. Look out for that in the future. And we're out. Peace. But stay
Thank
on.
you.